Thanks for sitting down with us and making the time out of the busy schedule. I know you're still busy with parliamentary business, but thanks for doing this for us. You've been an MP now since 2010. What are the issues that have been most interesting for you, and what kind of experience has it been for you?
I went into, just on when I went into politics, you know, I grew up in Newcastle. We were a one-parent family because our family was separated after the Biafran War. In fact, well, during the Biafran War, grew up in a lot of poverty in a council estate, and my mother, who was very sort of politically interested, made sure I understand that it's only by politically struggle that we could benefit from. You know, I had a great state school down the road. I grew up in a council house. When my mother had cancer, her life was saved by the NHS without any, you know, cost to her. So I was always interested in politics, and the particular reason why I sort of went into politics in 2009 was because the MP for the area that I grew up in Newcastle, was standing down, and I thought, if I'm ever going to represent the people I grew up with, which is what I wanted to do, then now is the time to do that. I'd also say, and maybe we'll talk about this a bit more later, but I'd been working in Nigeria from 2000 to 2004, and I think that really helped me understand how important, you know, the state and the public sector is in providing, you know, the right environment for jobs and for growth and for people to be able to realise their full potential. So that's another reason why I was really keen to stand. And I studied at Imperial College in London. There were, like, I think 12% of women on that course in electrical engineering. It was really challenging, you know, being the only, it was only when I worked in Nigeria actually that I wasn't the only black person in the room generally, and being the only woman, the only black person, often the only person of working class background, you know, it's really tiring always being the exception, if you like. But having said that, you know, and that was a challenge, you know, being an engineer. And I went into engineering for the same reason I was interested in politics. You know, I wanted to change the world for the better. Engineers do that, you know, whether it's telecommunications or building bridges or making sure, you know, we have access to clean water. So being an engineer was a fantastic job. And one of the things I'm proudest of, for example, is my role in building out Nigeria's first GSM network. I got a call asking me to go to work in Nigeria, and I really just could not say no, because it was something I'd always wanted to do, and it was, you know, in some ways going home as well as going abroad. And I'll say that I had the least sort of, it was one of the best experiences of my life, you know, whereas, you know, in France and the US, obviously there was culture shock, and one of the things with MTN at the time was encouraging diaspora sort of Nigerians to come back to work for them. So there was quite a few others in the same position as me, and yeah, there were challenges, and there were, I think there was, you know, there were some concerns by engineers and others who were, if you like, still living in Nigeria about why were people coming from abroad and, you know, getting better jobs, not that, you know, and things like that. But I think it was good for MTN, it was good for the company, and it was a great experience for me, and I loved living and working in Lagos.
What are the critical lessons that you think you've learned and that you can share, you know, on the Nigerian continent? For instance, when you look at our leadership and you look at legislation, what sort of experience do you think you can bring to the table as well? One
big barrier is that how much it can cost to run politically in Nigeria, or two actually, how much it can cost, and, you know, there's an age limitation, and I support the not too young to run campaign, because I think that, you know, Nigerians of all ages should be able to represent their communities. And myself, as a Labour Party candidate, I had to spend very little money of my own money. I think I spent about £300 of my own money to get elected, because the party supports that, and because there are regulations, rules about how much you can spend. You know, it has to be tries to be a level playing field. And I think that, you know, talking to Nigerian representatives, then representing their issues is much harder. I grew up, if you like, at the bottom of the sort of social scale when I was a kid, you know, being young, black female from the north, working class, in a council estate, in a council home. The reason that I became, well, firstly an engineer and then an MP, I think there's two real reasons. It's the sort of the love and support of my family, and that, that's something that you can't replicate, the state can't replicate, but then it was also excellent free local education. And so it is education for me that can enable, any people, it's what enables people to reach their full potential. And there's just so much talent out there that is wasted because the education opportunities aren't there.
And then looking at our politics, what inspired you to go into politics, and how has your journey been, being female and then being a politician as well? And what message would you give to young ones who want to go into politics but are afraid of the word politics?
We're here today in Parliament, and if you're walking around, you'll see that most of the paintings, the statues, they're all of men. So nothing feels like it's about sort of women or about, and I think that's a real barrier. But what I'd say to any, woman who, I'd say two things really, just look at the politicians around you. You can do better than them. They got into that position through, a combination of luck, sometimes hard work, but often the privilege of where they were born or who, their background. You can do better, you can do better than them. Whatever, challenges you think you faced in your life, they are part of the reason why you will do better than them, because you will be bringing that experience to Parliament. And the other thing, I would say is that, things, decisions are made by those who show up, and unless we take part, unless we, I know there are challenges now. It is not a level playing field. It's not open. It's not always fair. But unless we take part, we won't change that.
What sort of message would you want to give out to not just the population, the Nigerian population in Newcastle, but what message would you want to be giving out from the diaspora?
I would say, in the UK, for example, those who've lived in the UK can vote from abroad for 15 years after they move abroad. So there's a limit on it, but the idea that simply because you're not in a country for whatever reason, for working or for whatever, that you have no interest in that government and also nothing to contribute, I think that's basically wrong. I think that those who have grown up in a country, those who are part of a sort of country's history as well as the country's future, like the diaspora, is an incredibly important part of Nigeria.
And looking at your website, you're all things Newcastle. So if we were going to say, how would you make one of the cities in Lagos, a mini Newcastle, what would it take?
I suppose I'd ask every city in Nigeria, what is your story, and can you set it out in a few lines? What makes you both unique and special and an important part of your country's future? And then, it's up to Nigerians and the diaspora and everyone to be championing those stories. Stories are what sort of communicate to people. So my parents moved back to Nigeria in 65, and I think they went with the part of the, the hope and the enthusiasm, because of the new Nigerian independent state. And when you think of that promise, which was in itself kind of limited because the process, if you like, of decolonialization was neither sort of fair nor complete nor extensive. But now you see Nigeria is seen as as a future superpower, really, economically speaking. And I think so. I suppose the message. And I think, is we spent a lot of time talking about the Nigeria of the future. It's time to make that a reality now. That takes it takes a lot of things: hard work, commitment, investment, but it also takes sort of unity and leadership, and that's what the world sort of expects from Nigeria. And that's what Nigeria's friends and the Nigerian, diaspora that I'm a part of is looking for Nigeria to assume the place it merits on the world stage. I should say, just want to send a message from the Nigerian community in Newcastle, which is strong and vibrant, and it's one of the reasons why I can at least now regularly enjoy jollof rice, which is one of the things I miss most about living in Lagos.
Oh.